Hello everyone, this is Maria Kronk, and today we are going to make some sandwich bread that is keto friendly. It's low carb. It's using my keto flour blend, the lupin, with the lupin flour, and it turned out awesome. I had to make a few adjustments, make it a few times, but it turned out really good. The first thing I want to show you is a couple things that you need to do when you're working with gluten-free baking. The measurements, this is true with any kind of flour, but the measuring is really important. I have the measurements in grams and ounces for you. That is the fastest, easiest way to measure when you're baking. The only thing is like if you use Victoria's Keto Kitchen, her blend with the almond flour instead of lupin flour, it's going to weigh totally different. Almond flour is much more heavy, and so then the lupin flour is much lighter. So if you're using a different blend, I would definitely recommend you use measuring cups. To try to get more accurate when you're using a measuring cup, is what I do is I have a knife or something that has a straight edge. One of the things in measuring that is really important is that you don't pack in the flour if you're using a measuring cup. So instead of scooping it in like this, I take another, either a utensil or another measuring cup, and I just add it to this measuring cup until it's heaping over. And then I take a straight edge, something, a knife or some other thing that's a straight edge. I go like this to eliminate any clumps that might be in it. Not to pack it down, but just to kind of remove any clumps so there's no air pockets or whatever. And then I just take this knife and I go like this. And that's what I do. I do that on measuring spoons as well. That will help you get a more accurate measurement. But that is a more accurate way if you're using a measuring cup. If you're using this exact blend, then definitely the scale is so much easier. Basically, I will have the bowl on it. I'll turn the power on, and then I will put the ingredients in there until it reaches the amount of grams. Then I turn it off. I turn it back on again, and it always goes to 0 every time you turn it off. Another thing that I've done recently, when I'm using baking soda or baking powder, we're using baking powder in this. I don't know if it's the moisture or if it's the brand, but there's nothing worse than eating a cookie or some kind of baked good with a clump of baking soda or baking powder. So I've been just sifting it, making sure there's no lumps in here. You don't want to have clumps of that. That might be something to think about. I'm also using avocado oil in this recipe. It's a very healthy oil. It'll give it that nice richness. It has a very neutral taste, so it's a great oil to use. With gluten-free bread, you don't have to knead it. You don't have to mix it for a long period of time. I only mix it for about a minute, or 2, maybe 3, just to get the moisture absorbed into the flours and to get it completely mixed up. And you don't have to knead it because we don't have gluten where you have to punch it down and break it down. So, and you only need to let it rise once. That's one bonus about gluten-free. You should see a little bit of a rise. It's not going to rise like white flour does or like bread flour does. It's not going to rise like that, but you will see a bit of a rise, and it will have a wonderful flavor, and it will be low carb. And then the final thing I want to share is that I'm using milk powder. I like milk powder because it gives it an extra flavor and it helps with the texture. I got this idea from America's Test Kitchen. I can't believe it's gluten-free cookbook. They talked about how the milk powder in their flour blend helped with the texture and the flavor. So I do have some of the milk powder in my flour blend, but I wanted to add a little bit more in this recipe, and it works really well. So let's get started. Okay, this is extremely important that you get the right temperature. It should be 110 and under 120 degrees Fahrenheit. too hot and it'll kill the yeast, and if it's not warm enough, the yeast won't grow. One thing that's really important to remember is when you're done baking, it's really important not to cut into it, because it does, it's still cooking in the center. And unlike wheat bread, if you cut into it right away, you're going to have a gummy center. So you should let it sit on a rack and cool completely before you cut into it. I'm actually going to do a taste test. I cooked one with the almond flour blend that was from Victoria's Keto Kitchen. The only thing I did different with hers is I added the milk powder for a little bit better texture and more flavor. And then so I used the almond flour blend, and then I used my lupin flour blend. Some people don't do well with lupin flour. It is made from, it is in the same family of peanuts and soybeans. So if you can't tolerate those, it's probably best to stick with the almond flour blend. I think her blend is awesome. The one thing I do like about the lupin flour is that it is half the carbs than almond flour, and it's twice the protein. So this is definitely, I would imagine that this would sustain you a lot more and longer than almond flour. So that's one thing I like about it. The drawback of it is that it's a lot more expensive. So there is that too to consider. So I made one. You could see that the lupin flour is definitely a little more yellow. It did rise on both of these just the same, not as much as a bread flour. This is the almond flour blend right here. That's a great taste. It'll taste perfect toasted. I think this has a little bit more flavor to it. This is a little bit more bland. This is up a notch. They're both really good. So depending on what you're looking for, I think they're both really good. They'd be great with toasted, avocado toast, things like that. The awesome thing is that this is low carb, so you don't have to be like, I can't have bread because I'm on keto. So you guys, if you try the different blends, the almond flour blend and the lupin flour blend, I would love to hear which one you think is better. Please comment, make a comment, and share your experience. Also, share this video. If you've gotten value out of it, share this video with your foodie friends. Make sure you hit the like, the comment, and the notification will definitely alert you when my new videos come out each Friday. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.